And we're back. It's Razzie as usual, and I want to welcome you to the Void Space. So, today I would like to talk about intuition versus anxiety. It's a highly requested question. Everyone is always wondering, well, how do I tell the difference between my anxiety and my worries and my intuition? How do I know whether or not it's really my intuition that's talking to me? How can I trust that? And that's what we're going to explore a little today. And I want to make this as simple and precise as possible because it's actually not easy to talk about at all. I've tried to record this so many times and it just turns into a long ramble of nothingness. But I really want to get to the meat and bones of the differences between your anxiety and your intuition. How can you identify it? How can you work yourself into trusting yourself? Because that's one major key of what intuition really is and what anxiety isn't. Anxiety is truly when you just don't trust yourself, right? And you're going against yourself. So what happens is it creates all of these fears, all of these doubts, and it leads to things like panic attacks. So let's take a second to explore the definitions of intuition and anxiety. So intuition, explained by my dictionary app, is the direct perception of truth, fact, etc., independent of any reasoning process. A keen and quick insight. The quality or ability of having such a direct perception or quick insight. So keyword with that definition is quick, right? It's an insight, it's quick, and it doesn't come with a bunch of reasoning in your mind, right? So I want to let you in on something. Intuition does not come from your mind at all, right? It comes from the astral plane and it's channeled through your body. And, that astral plane is very much located in the void. And where I like to feel that the void space is for me, when I feel into my body, it's located somewhere between my chest and my solar plexus, which is the stomach region. It's in that center point, right? It's not quite the heart, but it is very close. And obviously that can't be explained through any logic or reasoning. That's just where I perceive it to be. And through the astral plane, which we access with our subconscious, right? Because the astral plane is very much unconscious to a lot of us, right? Because the unconscious is a much deeper place than the subconscious. But we have layers in our brain. We have the conscious, which pulls from everything we have ever seen or known in our lifetime, located in the subconscious. And then when we explore there, we can go deeper into the void and pull from the collective understanding, everything that's ever happened in all of our ancestors' lives on the planet, in the universe, quote unquote. You can call it the Akashic Records if you want. But through that plane of existence, we are gaining and bringing through these different levels information, insight, right? That's why it's called insight, because you can see inside of yourself, deep, deep inside of yourself, where there is no light and there isn't a visual most of the time, right? Because what people do is try to get their insights from the external world, and that will never work with intuition, right? So once again, intuition is when you trust the information that you're receiving, right? When you trust yourself. So if you don't trust yourself, you'll know because you have a lot of anxiety. So let's take a look at the definition of anxiety. Distress or uneasiness of mind caused by fear of danger or misfortune. Earnest but tense desire. It's even explained as eagerness. A state of apprehension and psychic tension occurring in some forms of mental disorder. It's also described as a state of uneasiness or tension caused by apprehension of possible future misfortune, danger, intense desire, a state of intense apprehension or worried, often accompanied by physical symptoms such as shaking, intense feelings in the gut, etc., common in mental illness or after a very distressing experience. Now, even that definition feels like anxiety. It's a loop. It's like saying the same thing, and now we're going in circles. And, one of the keys of looking at this definition is saying that it resides in the mind, the anxiety, and it's about a possibility of a danger in the future. So, not necessarily tied to anything happening right now. It can come from a distressing experience, but what usually happens is something very traumatic or stressing happens or occurs, and then for some reason we're not able to mentally let that go, creating and causing more fear about the future and in an impending sense of this is going to happen again and again and again. The last definition for anxiety is emotional distress, especially that brought on by fear of failure. This brings up another interesting point for me because originally I wanted to talk about intuition versus emotions. And I wanted to tell you that intuition is also void of emotions. It's once again just a fact or an insight. Even if that fact or an insight is telling you that you need to make a left turn instead of a right turn today when you're walking to work, right? It's an internal fact. So there isn't any way to necessarily prove that on the outside. But it doesn't come with a bunch of emotions. But anxiety does. So when you don't listen to taking that left or right turn that your intuition is telling you, and now you're paralyzed between these two options, and you're standing there and you're like, but what if I go that way and then I'm extra late to work? What's going to happen with this? What's going to happen with that? Blah, blah, blah. And you keep on looping and you keep on going. And now you're blaming everything else outside of you for paralyzing you, except for your lack of trust in your own body's ability to guide you, right? In your own understanding and understanding that comes far beyond this visible and logical world. Especially here in America, we have been taught to not listen to ourselves. Everything teaches us that. Our parents teach us that, right? They want us to listen to them and be obedient. School teaches us that. And then we're learning that in school so that we can go into a job where now we listen to them without ever questioning anything or listening to ourselves. Truth isn't universal either. So truth comes in many forms, and it's very much so tailored to just you in your life, your truth versus somebody else's. And we try to generalize everything by saying, there's just this one right and this one wrong. And if you follow the book and you follow the structure that we give you, you're going to get these results. But we know that that's not always true, right? You have to follow yourself. Now, how do you listen to your intuition? Truth is, because we've been so heavily programmed not to, that's why you can look around in the world and see so many people normalizing stress and anxiety as if it's okay, as if this is just normal, this is just what we go through. It's really just a product of our society, and our society is not run in a very healthy way. Remember, intuition comes from your body. So let's start with, what are you putting in your body? What do you do for your body? Do you value your body? Do you cherish your body? Do you love your body? Can you look at yourself, regardless of what other people look like, and say, I'm grateful for the fact that I can get up in the morning and use my legs. I love what I look like. Do you feed yourself, and I mean literally, do you feed yourself high processed foods and sugar and caffeine all day? I'm not saying you can't have any of these things, although you should never have processed foods, but we do it. We still end up doing it. And if we're not regulating that, if we're not checking our addictions, well, a lot of anxiety in the mind comes from irregular hormones. It comes from a nervous system that hasn't been put in check. And a lot of things you're eating that reside in your gut, now there's a nerve that goes from your gut to your brain, right? Passing straight through that area where I say the void is located, and it's blocking a lot of these receptors for you to receive this information fluidly. And instead of detoxing and fasting and emptying yourself, right, and cleaning yourself out and making sure that you bring balance to your health and nutrition, you get caught up in your mind. And because you're on so much sugar, so much caffeine, now you're getting the physical symptoms of anxiety, which are sweating, tension, right? Shaking. You ever seen someone like shake their leg uncontrollably? That could be because you just ate too much sugar, but now your mind is like, why is my leg shaking? And because you've never disconnected your mind from what goes on in your body, then you start to spiral into a story in your mind. Oh, I must be shaking because maybe something's happening, something's not right, something's wrong. And then you start to feel all these emotions, and the emotions can turn into an avalanche, a disaster that can really get you into some harmful scenarios. Imagine you're driving and you're catching a panic attack, right? So outside of cleaning up your diet, incorporating more real foods, whole foods that have life to them, fruits, right? A lot of fruits. You can clean up your sugar addiction by swapping out all of the processed sugar and refined sugar for fruits. Do it for a week or two. See what happens. You can never eat too many fruits. Don't let them tell you otherwise. But other than that, do you walk? Do you give yourself physical exercise? Do you pay attention to your breath? Your breath is so important, and I'm not going to give you all the reasons why, but you should look these things up for yourself and do a little deep dive, right? Do you take in those shallow breaths, or do you take deep ones? Do you wake up and go straight to social media? Are you constantly consuming information? Are you able to sit down in a space by yourself? You don't even have to get into a crazy meditative place, right? Because I think a lot of people understand meditation also the wrong way. Are you just able to sit down with yourself without music and extra stimulation and be and exist without feeling like you're not doing enough? Without feeling like you have to get up and you have to move your body? Are you able to give yourself that rest and relaxation? Are you able to take the little moments in your life seriously? Are you able to be intentional about your morning routine, right? Your trips to the bathroom. Are you able to be intentional about every time you look at your phone, you text somebody back? These are the mark of somebody who is now in their body, and can have a clear channel with their intuition. Someone who can also understand that their body is going to guide them out of any dangerous or risky scenario. All of these things you have to do purposefully by being aware and by being here now. If y'all follow me anywhere else, you know that's what I preach. Being here now is the key to your intuition. It's the key to living a fulfilling life with or without happiness. Because once again, that's an emotion that will cycle. Go back to my intro. Revisit that one. But your intuition is your strongest power. Everybody has it. I know you've tapped in before. I know that you have heard the call of your intuition to do something and then look back later and been like, damn, I should have listened to myself. Remember, you need to work on trusting you. You need to work on trusting not just what the universe is doing and what's happening outside of you, but what you want to do. Every time you don't listen to yourself, you push your intuition further and further under the water and you strangle the shit out of it. But you can't kill your intuition, and that's a great thing, right? The connection truly will never actually go away. You'll just develop a harder time getting back on track with that. So anytime you're in your head and you're thinking, what if, oh my God, will this happen? Why am I feeling this way? And you start making up all these stories, well, know that you are not listening to yourself. And you need to. And if you listen to yourself, it's going to be very challenging in the beginning because unprogramming or reprogramming isn't an easy thing to do. It does take a lot of resetting those physical sensations. And because you have to physically go through the reprogramming, it kind of makes it difficult and makes it hard for you to be consistent, especially if you're not consistent about anything that's good for you, right? So picking up one of these things, Kundalini yoga, picking up sitting with yourself, sitting and enjoying a long morning, getting up a little early to have a cup of tea before that cup of coffee, and taking your phone off and watching the sunrise. Little things like that will help you reset. And anytime you hear those stories starting to spin, anytime you see that, oh, I'm getting a little shaky, or I'm sweating a little too much, instead of checking in with your mind, refocus in your body. When you're having conversations with strangers and you find yourself ready to react, ready to respond instantly, which is a reaction, right? Don't do it. Hold yourself back regardless of what is being said, regardless of whether or not you feel like, oh, I need to stand up for myself in this moment, or I need to check this person, I need to let this person know, where they're going wrong. Stop. Just stop and listen. Practice active listening. Active listening will help you listen to your intuition. It will help you distinguish the different voices happening inside of your mind and help you realize that all you've been doing is responding to that dialogue in your mind. But you don't have to, right? And the more you stop responding to those voices and those thoughts, that's all that meditation really is. It gets easier and easier and easier, and you become a much more calm person. And I want you to trust yourself. I want everyone to trust themselves. Think of how different the world and our culture would be if we trusted ourselves. If we didn't let other people manipulate us into thinking the way they want us to think because it benefits them. But instead, we honored what benefits us, right? And we do the things that's necessary that we have to do in service of others, but we still give ourselves what we need. It starts with body work, grounding. A grounded person has a strong intuition. Okay? So I want you to contemplate these things, and I want you to catch yourself, at least for the next 24 hours. Give yourself some time and catch yourself spinning into the mental loops. See what it takes to bring yourself back in your body, because this is such a private process for everyone. And accept that it's going to take a while before you truly detox this society's programming from your brain and from your nervous system. Okay? Be honest with whether or not you do any of these practices or not. And you can be a very busy person. Okay? You can be a very busy person and still give yourself that time to stop thinking. Right? Because your intuition is gonna, even when you're taking care of a child or you're taking care of business, your intuition will be able to just do what's necessary without you having to project into the future about what you're not doing or doing. And it will allow you to be in the moment, even with the work that you have to get done. There's no shortcuts with this type of work. That's the truth. If you can work out on your body every day because you want to look good, then you can do this for your mind, because you can look as good as you want, but internally you can be falling apart. You gotta push yourself, and if you need extra help, please go out and seek that extra help. That's an investment that will go so far in your life, because you're only going to lose money the more you can't control your emotions. But that's another story. Maybe I'll talk about it in the next episode. Emotions and money. So seek the help that you need. If you want to work with me long term, I am here for you. I'm not the only one. So go where you resonate and stop running away from your inner truth. Sit with yourself. Ground through the distress. And that's the story that I guess I'll give y'all, right? So when I had to really sit with my anxiety and master it, because I have always been a naturally calm person, a person who knows that I am adaptable and I can get through most of anything and I will survive. I have my splenic center in human design filled. That is my authority, if you know about human design. If you don't, I'm a Sagittarius rising. So I have an adaptable personality, like I said. So naturally, especially with Saturn on my moon, if you want to know your astrology, I can break that down for you as well. I have the ability to be contained, right? I can contain myself. But certain things still could throw me off. And I was in a relationship in basically my mid-20s that really threw me off in every way. My pH balance was thrown off. My mental patterns were thrown off. I questioned myself. I was lost. And I remember being gaslighted, manipulated, all the things. And the partner that I was with, he was talking to somebody else, right? So he was a full-blown cheating, but this was still crossing boundaries and lines. And I remember coming across a back and forth conversation between the two of them that really set it off for me. It gave me so much anxiety. And I just remember sitting to myself and thinking, like, I don't ever want to feel this way. I don't ever want anything that anyone does in relation to me to ever put me in this kind of place, right? To feel this way. I was literally waking up every day shaking. That's how much anxiety I had. And I'm crazy, so I decided to put myself through exposure therapy. I was like, you know what? I'm going to continue to expose myself to this until I don't feel anything. And that may sound like numbing out to some people, but I did it with intention, not to numb out, right? I didn't take any drugs. I didn't distract myself. with friends. I spent a whole week reading that conversation over and over again. I couldn't even eat food for that week. I probably ate about an apple a day, and I'm not shitting you, I'm not lying. This is really what happened. And by the end of the week, I realized something important too, and that was that anxiety comes from this fight or flight, survival feeling. Like anxiety itself was probably very helpful when we were out hunting for food and we heard a rumble in the bushes and we needed to get the hell out of there, because it turned our instincts on in a way where we wanted to survive. So basically, when you have anxiety, it's stimulating the part of you that believes you're gonna die, right? Now, I knew logically that, okay, I got a boyfriend who's basically cheating on me, and I'm not gonna die. I'm not gonna die, I know that. But why does it feel like I'm gonna die? Because all of these feelings in my body and what I was going through, it was putting me through that. And it wanted me to do something, but there was nothing to do. So I realized that. And by the end of that week, I, had finally reprogrammed the understanding that I'm not gonna die. And my intuition was right. This relationship is wrong. Now, trust me, from that point on, it took me about another 2 years, maybe 2 years and a half to leave that relationship. I work slow sometimes, right? I'm just like everybody else. So it took me a while to finally align fully with my intuition, but I did know that my intuition was right, because that's how I found that conversation anyway. And the only reason why I found that was to show me that this isn't the relationship for me. I gotta go. But I had to go through this process to know that no one else, nothing else, would put me through that kind of level of distress in my own body. And I needed to take control of my own body. And I promise you, since that week, I've never, no matter what has happened, especially in that relationship, and nothing has ever put me through that level of anxiety. No other person. And we all have our different areas where we get the most anxiety, whether it's from career and money, or relationships, or family. You know what it is for you, so that's where you have to conquer it. Especially if you're like me and you want to go into the extreme, because you can handle that. Not everybody can. But if you can jump into the water, so to speak, into the deep end to learn how to swim, then go for it. Other than that, it'll be a process. It'll be a process to take your time to get there. But trust me, you can get there. What is the thing that gives you the most anxiety? And how can you sit with that in order to basically defeat it inside of yourself? And then when you're done with that process, when all is said and done, you still gotta listen to your intuition. So if your intuition says, he ain't the one and you gotta go, then you gotta go. Even if it takes you a while, right? It's okay, you'll survive. Remember, it's not a matter of life and death. You will survive. And hey, if you find out by the end of you dealing with your anxiety that it is a matter of life and death, then the decision should be easy. It should be even easier. You choose life and you get the hell out of whatever scenario it is that you're in that you need to get the hell out of. You ask for the help, right? And you don't live in the fantasy world that you can just live like this and things will get better, because you can't live with that kind of anxiety. There's a lot there, right? But all of these things are linked together, and you want to be able to tell the difference between them and learn how to once again trust yourself and listen to yourself. That even though some decisions are going to be really hard in life to make, you can still make them. And yeah, if you got to leave a relationship to be broke for a while and figure it out and rely on your family, rely on your friends, well, you're going to have to do what you got to do. But that doesn't mean that you won't survive, and it doesn't mean that you won't come back out even stronger and on top. Trust me, you will. You gotta trust yourself. Your intuition will always be there to guide you, and the anxiety will fall away. So thank you so much for coming to the Void Space. If you want to follow me on Instagram, if you don't already, it's at n.razzie. If you want to go to my website, thecrystalmessenger.com, and book a session with me, we can go further in, talk about all of this. And other than that, I hope you got the most that you can out of this talk today. Probably is still longer than I wanted it to be, but this is one of those topics that deserves time. So thank y'all for listening. So much love and so much gratitude. And I will catch y'all on the next episode. Peace.